the cloud, and hello.
Hello. So I'm the interviewer today. So I'll ask you to introduce yourself first.
Okay, sure. I can introduce myself. I'm the interviewee. My name is Frederick, and I'm the person who put together this festival, the Global LGBTQIA plus everybody else festival. That's a bit of a
Mhm.
mouthful. It started out as just a class in a room that expanded to a couple of teachers in one room, and it has then grown and grown and grown to the place where we now have totally, unbelievably, I mean, things that were literally just, I mean, it never dawned on me that I could ever be in a Feldenkrais festival, an LGBTQIA plus everybody else festival, being interviewed by somebody in Sydney, Australia. And this would be part of a festival that's a week long with incredible teachers, some of the greatest teachers in the world. Also, some new teachers who I've been introduced to who are just amazing. And really, the Feldenkrais method is in good hands with those newcomers coming along. Really, really special. So. I have a few claims to fame, I think, but I think my big one, as far as the festival is concerned, is I'm the guy who was crazy enough to say, "Let's make it happen."
Sorry, what was that?
I said, I'm the one who's crazy enough to have said, "Oh, let's make it happen. Why not? Let's
Oh, I missed what you said. Sorry.
let's not say what you may have thought. You can tell me that privately. I could see it was colorful.
So, so what brought you to getting this festival together? Can we hear a little bit about that?
Sure, definitely.
Let me introduce myself. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Mhm.
So I'm Margaret Kaye with a tickly throat, apparently. And I'm here in Sydney, Australia. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which I'm seated, past, present, and emerging. I have been doing the Feldenkrais method for quite a long time. I graduated in 1991. So you can do the maths if you like. And I'm also an assistant trainer and a Bones for Life teacher and trainer. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm very excited to hear more from you, Frederick, what you were about to say about how this festival emerged.
Sure. Uh, years ago, I was asked to bring some sort of fitness programming. I was a fitness professional with doing traditional fitness programming. Then I took the Feldenkrais method. I took the training, and I graduated in about 2000, I guess it was. And I took it back into the fitness world, where at first they said, "We have no idea what you're talking about." But then the classes grew and became very popular with a segment of the population that was not ordinarily coming to a fitness club. People who wanted to just pump it out and get big and muscular, or run fast, 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 or whatever, do acrobatics. That population was already satisfied with the other kinds of classes.
Mhm.
When I came in, people who were more artistic or more mature, not only in chronological age, but more mature in terms of what they wanted from their body. People were like, "Wow, this is really interesting." As one student said, there's an intellectual heft to what's going on. It's not about just counting numbers and staying with the beat, but there's a lot going on here. That there's a lot more happening. And then the LGBT Elder Center, SAGE for LGBT elders, contacted Equinox and said, "We have a terrible problem. All the fitness classes that we have just are not working. Nobody comes. Nobody wants to do weightlifting or whatever." And that makes sense. I think most elders are going to a fitness club, they're going to an elder center, are not really interested in those kinds of classes. That's not why they're there. I mean, so they just go to a gym where there'd be good equipment and they can get on a bicycle, all that. So the organization I was working with said, "Yeah, we have somebody. We have somebody who we think will be great to work with that population." And so I went down and I spoke to them, and they said, "This sounds really interesting." And I spoke to members, and I told them I'd be starting a class soon. And from the opening day, it was packed. The class was packed. People from a class that I had taught at the parks department nearby, I invited them, and it got to be so crowded that we had to add another class. And the
Awesome.
yeah, the class we had to add a second class. And the senior center said, we really don't do that. When we have esoteric classes, we like yours, Frederick. We only have one of them. We have it on the schedule, and that's enough. And I said, well, who are you here to serve? Are you here to serve your members? You're here to serve some idea of what the schedule is supposed to look like. Obviously, there are members who would like to come in, and they're being turned away at the door. I live in New York City, where we have five boroughs, one of which is Staten Island. Staten Island is an island off the coast of Manhattan, and people were taking the train from their house to the dock to take the ferry to catch the subway in Manhattan to come to class. They were doing all of that and sometimes being turned away at the door, being told, I'm so sorry, but we just don't have space. They only a certain number of mats. And as a gay man myself, to think that gay elders are being turned away at the door, that just was, to me, that was horrifying. Like, how do you do that? But several of the people who were there said that they felt that coming to a gay positive environment was really amazing for them. One person in particular, I won't give her name, she said she was a psychiatrist, and that all through her training, she had to lie about the fact that she was a lesbian woman, that she would not be allowed to be a psychiatrist if she were honest. And of course, she had to go through a lot of therapy to be a psychiatrist. So she went through that absolute hell. And she said, I know I'm a lesbian woman. And I mean, I've been living with my girlfriend for the past 50 years. So I know the deal. She said, but still to walk into a facility that has gay on a thing that just seems so devastating. And she said, when I come to your class, Frederick, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm safe. I feel like I'm me and I'm okay. And I love that. And several students spoke in those terms about the empowerment that comes from taking these classes. And I said, you know what? We've hit on something. It's not just a popular class. There were many times, I'll mention the name. Reebok was one club, Equinox is another, that, very popular clubs where Feldenkrais was the most popular class on the schedule. There were more people in that class than spinning and the others. There were times when that happened. So I knew it could be popular, but there was something else going on at the senior center, at the LGBT Elder Center. Uh, and I said, we need to grow this. So we added another class. And I said, we still need to grow it further. Let's do something really wild. Let's have a festival. And let me bring out some out and proud teachers to come and also make it multi generational. It doesn't have to just be older people who are here. We can have younger people here. And let's contact some of the universities and have their LGBT groups come in. Let's be as fabulous as we can possibly be. So we did, and the first time we did it, they said we just don't think people are going to show up at 7 o'clock at night to come to a festival named after what was his name again, Doctor Who. I said, believe me, let's see what can happen. So people came out of the woodwork. The facility has sliding doors. We were in one room. They said, we got to open the door. Look at all these people. Where are we going to put them? So they slid the doors and they opened it up. And then the dining area, they told people, finish up your dinner because we have all these people. There's a film of it somewhere. I got to find that. And all these young folks and elders and people of all ages, also people of all gender identities and romantic preferences, everybody was there. And I thought, this is amazing that in a in a gay identified facility for elders, we have a product that young straight people want to come to. That's what they want to do on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Not that I need
Mm.
that validation, but that's something really wild there. It says something about the food in your Chinese restaurant. Well, when I look for a Chinese restaurant, I like a Chinese restaurant where all the Chinese people are eating. Then I know it's going to be really good. But if people are traveling from outside of Chinatown to go to that Chinese restaurant, I know they they've got good food. And this there was just love in the room and things blossomed and I just said, this is great. And so that was the reason for starting Feldenkrais festivals, LGBT Feldenkrais, no, LGBTQIA plus everybody else festivals, because certainly I wanted to honor the roots of where this came from. I wanted people who were marginalized either in terms of gender identity or sexual preference, all that. I wanted a place where everybody felt at home. But I didn't want to exclude anybody else. I wanted to
Mm,
invite other people, many of whom really wanted to be part of it. Like, somebody who I mentored for many years, Nick Strauss-Klein, he's a Feldenkrais practitioner. I mentored him for many years, and he's a very, very much, he's straight as an arrow, 4 kids, married, all that. But he said, "Oh, definitely. I think it's really important that we do this work." Uh, and and so, yeah, that's how it came about in terms of those are the roots of it. And
mm.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, you've covered a lot there. I've got a couple of questions from what
certainly,
you. So there's a couple of things. One that's really interesting is that it seems. Oh, maybe I'll bring that one up next. But what I'm curious about is some of the comments that came from the woman who joined the classes some years ago. And you said that, well, she had to lie, otherwise she wouldn't have been able to complete her work qualifications. But the world has changed now, right? To a degree. And certainly in the country that I am in the country that you are in, there's changes where I'm saying that people feel more comfortable to be, I guess, out and proud, but not necessarily. So what it made me think was that when you were saying, that some straighter young people came along to the classes, even though they're identified as gay or whatever you want to call it, rainbow or whatever. Um, uh, and that seems like an extraordinary thing, but it wouldn't be extraordinary if it was the other way around. If somebody who was gay, rainbow, attended a generic class that didn't have that identification. So what is it that makes it unique, that makes it safe and home, as that woman said? Can you tell us a little about that?
definitely. Just like when we are teaching a Feldenkrais class, we need to, if we're going to be effective, embody calm and quiet to fill the room with that sensibility when teaching. To
The
embody,
learners or the people doing the lesson?
when I'm teaching,
Yeah.
we are teaching, we need to fill the room so everybody taking the class gets a sense of that sensibility, that tempo, particularly in an environment like a gym where they might think I'm supposed to jump up and down and why are you taking my shoes off? To teach a class where my homosexuality is clear and
Mhm.
strong, and I don't shy away from it. I don't hit people over the head with it, but I make it very clear that I am who I am and I do what I do. My
Mhm.
my my goals are to be like Alvin Ailey, also another gay African American man whose dance work is clearly African American. I think it's even
Mhm.
called African American Ballet Theater, but it has
Mhm.
transcended all barriers through its excellence so that you don't have to be a black dancer to go see his work. That's
Yeah.
even seems silly. And when I mentioned Chinatown, that you don't have to be Chinese to be there. But it's still Chinese. I am, I'm an out proud gay man standing up literally on the world stage as such. And for people to see that, to me, for me to walk in those shoes while teaching a Feldenkrais class, where what we're looking at is how do you empower yourself through your own resources? I think that's incredibly powerful. I think that's incredibly powerful. Mhm.
So Before we go to the empowerment thing, what do you mean by sensibility? That's a beautiful word.
Well, in terms of the texture of the room,
Mm-hmm.
that through my voice, through the kind of music I'm playing, through the way the room is set up, is a sense of non-competition. There's a sense of there's no ageism, that
Mm-hmm.
we're okay. I play music that's accessible, so
Mm-hmm.
that it's not like something that seems weird or strange. It seems that's where that's what I mean about the sensibility of the room.
Right.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me to step forward and say, I can create greatness. I can do something. I might fall on my face, but I can go out there and say, this is a great method. It happened to be developed by a heterosexual European who's Jewish, but it's an amazing thing. And I'm not none of those things, but I can bring it forward and spread it out to the world because I think it's great, and
Mm-hmm.
be an out proud gay man. Also, at the facility, I do other workshops on male sexuality and things like that. I wear a different hat when I do that. I use a different language when I talk about body parts, of course, than a Feldenkrais class compared to sex. Um, but I think that people, I know people feel that, and so that's what I mean, I guess, by the sensibility in the room, that the only things that are not tolerated are
Mm-hmm.
transphobia, homophobia, and ageism. We just won't do that. We just won't do that. And body shaming. No, there's no
And,
body shaming. Those things. That I
yeah.
shouldn't even have to say that, but that's very clear.
And do you think that differs from another class that somebody might be running?
Yes, yeah, I definitely. Not at that center. That center is very good at being
Yeah.
clear what it's about. But it's totally. For example, most education that goes on around the body, the pedagogy is one of, I'm the teacher. I know what's right. I know what perfection is, and that's what you're aspiring to. And if you're not there, it's because you're doing it wrong. And I
Yeah.
think that's a horrible insult in
Yeah.
structure to
Yeah.
LGBT elders who stood up against those people who were saying that all the time. You know,
That they're
yeah,
that they
you're
yeah.
queer, you're bad. Who you
Yeah.
love is wrong. How you act is wrong. There's something wrong with you with this and that and the other. And I mean, embedded in the method is the idea that you find inside yourself what is right. And
Yeah.
I'm just facilitating your finding that. Like
Yeah.
when you breathe into your stuff, I don't say you do this and you don't do that. The method is about exploring inside yourself and expanding your repertoire, your movement vocabulary, so you can be more full in yourself as you are. And I think that's really, yeah.
Is that the aspect? What is is that the aspect, or is there something else that makes people feel safe in this context?
Um, I think there's a biggie. I think that's big. There might be others, but they don't come to mind right now. You know what? I'm also a jazz buff, as you heard. I was playing that music, and some people were talking to me about jazz and the relationship between jazz and Feldenkrais. Something that Michel Feldenkrais himself said. He went into
Oh
a
yeah.
jazz club in San Francisco, and he said, "Wait a second, these jazz musicians, they're doing my work." It's like, well, I think they kind of, developed it a little bit independent of you. But it's
Yeah.
not like that. They clearly know what they're doing. They clearly know what
Yeah.
they're doing. But they're also in the moment as they're doing it. They're 100% present. Otherwise, it doesn't work. They're also
Yeah.
working in community with the others here on stage. They're doing Feldenkrais. I paraphrase. I think when you're in an environment where the teacher is 100% present and not making a show and interacting with you. I often say to students, my goal is to be inside you, to experience what you're experiencing, knowing the lesson, but to see what the restrictions are and how do I, without judgment, open up the door for you to see other possibilities based on the method. So, for example, if I look and I see that there are restrictions in the way you turn your head, knowing that the lesson might be about, who knows, like pelvic clock in that relationship, to be able to not say, you know what, Margaret, you're wrong. You're not turning your head good enough, and that that sounds so ridiculous. But there are methods where it's like the teacher says, no, 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 don't do it like that. And which is like, what are you talking about? I'm doing what makes sense to me. And if you can
Mm,
offer a pathway to go forward that enables me to be a better me, then do that. But don't as
mm,
Michelle Feldenkrais said, to correct is incorrect. To correct is to insult.
mm.
Yeah.
I guess about the safety issue, though, I mean, because what you're describing is the truth for any Feldenkrais lesson, but you're creating a context where we're specifically identifying a particular demographic and saying you are welcome, you are seen, you are heard. And hang on, I've just got a little thing that somebody gave me the other day. Yes, here, I don't know if you can see that, or maybe it's back to,
Affirmation. I deserve to take up space and let my light shine. I hear you. I love
yeah,
that. Fabulous
yeah.
one.
But I also think that this is my opinion, but let me know what you think. That when people come to that place and feel safe, it's not just um, about all of the beautiful things that you just described about being present and hearing that you can explore possibilities, but it's also about feeling connected to others, connected
Yes.
to community. That feels like home. She said the word home. What does home mean? Well, home mean, does home, what do you think? What is it
What do
about the connection and the
I
home idea?
Yeah, I mean, I volunteer for the holiday. You guys wouldn't have it in Australia, Thanksgiving, which is do you know Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, and I started doing that. It's the biggest holiday dinner at the Elder Center, and I
Mhm.
love being host there because so many people have been kicked out of their what would be their traditional home, been taken away from their their supposedly supportive family,
Yeah,
and a family that was supposed to be there. Not everyone, of course. I mean, some people bring their kids and all that, but there are people who have reached a ripe age, a golden age, and don't have a place to go, and the place that's closest to the place that is their home is the center, where they can have a wonderful turkey dinner and celebrate in community with others.
yeah.
And it's so popular as a holiday that the main center has it on the actual day. There's another center that caters to a mostly African American and Latino population. I'm moving away from the word Latinx because a lot of Latin people don't like that. A Latin population mostly from the Caribbean and also from Central and South America. They have a separate Thanksgiving that's 2 days before. And
Mhm.
the reason they do that is because they think the food downtown is kind of boring. And I think, if you come if you come from Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico, like eat this turkey that has almost no seasoning on it. Where's the rice and beans? And and how come we don't have any drinks, and how come nobody's dancing? And so there's an honoring of the cultures, and I go to both. I will say that I prefer the one uptown because everybody gets up and dances, and we're just having a blast. And it's home for that population uptown, and it's also home for that population downtown. And
Mhm.
some people, they walk up and they give me a hug as they walk in the door, and they haven't seen me in literally 365 days. And they walk up and and you know what? They feel at home, almost
Yeah,
like I'm their favorite nephew or cousin or whatever it is that they haven't seen in a year. So that kind of familial bond is there, and it's quite beautiful.
that's very beautiful. And it's a place where they feel it's home because they're connected and they feel safe, and they feel that they're not being questioned for who they are
Absolutely, yeah.
or judged for who they are.
What
Which brings, Yeah, go.
I'll just say one more thing about that. It's called the LGBT Center, not LGBTQ. In that, in the evolution of the alphabet soup that is what we call ourselves now,
Yes.
many people said, don't call me queer. That still resonates in a lot of people, including myself to a degree. I have mixed emotions about it. That queer is a bad word, and they were insulted and called that for decades as a negative. And so to even I totally love it that the young folks that are out there or younger than me have appropriated the word and turned it around and said, this is who we are and I'm strong in it. But it's one that doesn't roll off my tongue easily. And I actually, when I saw my university sent me an alumni magazine called The Queer Issue. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? That was my initial response. And then I said, oh wow, that's amazing that my
Mm,
university is doing that and talking about queer people. When I
mm,
first went there to go to what was called the Gay People's Alliance at that time, people would
mm.
lie about where they were on Tuesday nights. I even remember it was Tuesday nights because they had to have an excuse that people wouldn't think that they were going to the gay community thing. Really cool. I mean, the evolution. We're not talking 100 years ago. We're talking what 40 years ago, something like that. Mhm.
But isn't that something that people have reclaimed? Like, some of the kind of slang words that we used as a form of insult or abuse, like dyke, even, for
Mhm.
example. People have reclaimed that, and that's part of the kind of movement to reclaim who the queer community is. If you
Absolutely.
call it queer, if you want to call it queer.
Yeah.
I use the
I,
word queer. I use the word queer because it summarizes all of the letters
right. Right. I
in,
hear
in
you.
a shorter version, or rainbow. Yeah.
Rainbow. Yeah, and young folks in my life often correct me when I
Mm.
say LGBT or LGBTQ or I say gay, and they're like, "You mean the queer community?" They're like, get with the program. I feel almost like those older folks who still, when talking about African Americans, refer to them as colored people. And colored people is like, okay, you're really from another generation. I might have just echoes of that in my brain that I'm still looking to step forward. But you know
Yeah.
what? People feel my heart.
Mm.
People feel my heart.
The language of identity and preferences and all that is constantly changing, right?
Constantly.
Constantly changing, and people, to be respectful, I guess, need to keep up with it. I haven't heard that being said about the word queer. That's commonly used in Australia, it's my understanding, but I
Yeah.
hadn't heard that being used as an old-fashioned word. But I
Uh,
get it. A
yeah.
newer kind of group of people coming along who are identifying with different terminology at the very least. Now, just to go back to another question, um, so what do we mean about embodiment? What is your opinion about, because we used the word embodiment before, what do you think that really means, and how do we um, engage with people to facilitate that?
I think
Why is
that's
it useful?
sorry. Prideful,
And
you
why,
said? I missed that last word. I'm sorry.
why is it useful?
Oh, why is it useful? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the method is all about.
Hmm.
Being having a fuller access to yourself so that you are free within yourself in all respects, including certain fundamentals like gender identity, uh, to be able to access that and understand that about yourself,
Hmm.
um, and the war that goes on with the overall, I mean, literal violence and murder that takes place, particularly against like Black trans women, um, to be able to embody yourself when you go out in public, um, and the forces that are that can be against you. If you're not strong within yourself, that's just really horrific. When I first
Mm.
started working, I'm hoping to answer the question well. When I first started doing programming with the LGBT Center, uh, there was a non-binary coach or person who was there doing some programming, Christian. And at the time, for me, the pronoun working with pronouns was difficult, and they wanted to be called they. And of course, I had gone through decades of my life. They was plural, and this is a single person. I arranged for us to go to hear a jazz concert in Newark, another state, another city. And I said, let's do that. And Christian said, that sounds fabulous. Let's do it. Now, Christian is clearly non binary. So we got together and we went out on the train. And as I went up to Christian, I said, it's a challenge for me in terms of calling you they, because I am that in terms of the way I see English structure, that's problematic. And Christian said, well, Frederick, just don't call me dude. Christian wore dresses. Said, don't call me dude. And then they said, if you want to give yourself a challenge, then that's a challenge that you might want to look at in terms of honoring what I want. Either call me by my name or call me they. And then I stepped back a little bit and I realized that Christian, clearly non binary, was going to another state, a city where they could be attacked. And there'd be many people who, Newark, New Jersey, a very conservative place in terms of those issues. But Christian walked with such pride and such dignity.
Mm.
It's like, this is who I am. And I thought, that is so fabulous. I'm so behind the, I felt so young as I approached the idea, as I approached it. And I said, there's just so much further along in terms of that. Of course, they're living that life. They have to live that. They have to live with the world responding to them as a non-binary person. But I really take my hat off to Christian for embodying themselves so fully.
It
And I
takes
think,
strength, yeah, it takes strength, as you say,
oh my
and
goodness.
not everybody has that. Like, if I can just say something, just
Sure.
jump in a little bit here. I just was discussing this with a couple of people, and the one person said that when people use language or behaviors that mean that they're looking down on that person or thinking them as other or not good enough or whatever, that he just dismisses it, and that's a strong thing to do too. And then I talked to another person who's a client of mine, and he was referred to me. He has a really sore back. He's a gay man. And he told me he's got a really profound scoliosis and kyphosis, primarily kyphosis, so excess kind of curvature in the upper spine. And he told me that when he was a child, his brother was kind of bullying him always, telling him to stop moving his pelvis so much.
Oh,
And so what happened was he stopped moving his pelvis and he crunched himself up and withdrew, literally contracted his whole musculature, and his spine adjusted to that and
wow.
developed. And because as a child, he didn't have that strength that you're describing
Mm,
to go, that's not appropriate, that's not good enough. I am comfortable in my skin. And if you're not comfortable with that, too bad. Accept who I am. Anyway, so I have been working with this man, and we've been unraveling his spine, and he's slowly, in fact, been growing taller. And now that he recognizes that it's great to move the pelvis for all kinds of reasons, changed his life. I mean it literally, like how we represent ourselves is part of who we are, right? And so he's learned that moving his pelvis gives him an easier walk, but it also makes him feel more comfortable. So he's not locked up.
That is beautiful. That's I can't think of a better application of this work.
Yeah,
Something that probably would not get addressed in, physical therapy.
yeah.
Uh,
And
or,
have conformity in the way that we move, right? Not only about the way we look, but the way we move is there's conformity based on all the things you've described: gender, identity, sexual preferences or romantic preferences, age, all those things, race, all those things. Uh, so, what do you think that the Feldenkrais method has to do with that? What's your opinion?
sure. In turn, well, I was thinking as one that you didn't mention there that could go on there is, I see is misogyny. I think that it's not just sexual preference, but it's the reaction to one's sexual preference. It's not just one's gender identity, but the
Mm,
reaction to it, and that your environment around you is giving you a negative reaction to your being yourself, and so you conform to that. Particularly before you get to a mature age, you want to fit
yeah,
in, and the
yeah.
only places that you get to fit in is if you funnel yourself into somebody else's definition of what you're supposed to be, and the reality of yourself is going to be there, and
Yeah.
that comes out in physical and emotional ways. So I think the Feldenkrais is extraordinary for that because, unlike, I mean, I know that psychotherapy can work and people can blossom, and then and physical therapy I think is further down, but can help if you're not, for example, strong in particular areas, or as one trans woman who had a male skeleton in a workshop that I was, and she talked about how it was difficult for her to stand, that standing up was problematic, and uh,
Mm,
and she felt very masculine in the way she was standing, and she didn't want to do that. So she was conforming to ways of moving, and through Feldenkrais, I was able to give her a sense of grace. I mean, actually, with the words and very little touch. Look, instead of thinking of standing up, think of falling forward and depending on yourself that you will not fall. You will come
mm,
forward, and as you bring yourself forward, you evolve, you blossom into
mm,
standing. And the tears were in her eyes, and it was like, wow, look at this. I never knew how to do that. Um,
mm,
she she had really harnessed herself, and almost every gay man, probably every lesbian woman I know, has at times looked to pass for purposes of safety and security. Like I don't want people to, I don't want to make problems at a family gathering, or I don't want to, I just don't want to do that. And
yeah.
we kill a part of ourselves if we closet a part of ourselves. And the forces that are who we are running through us to to damper that down. I mean, I just do it myself. I just took a Bones for Life class and with Brian, it was amazing. And to look at, okay, what does it mean to do this? What does it mean to this? What does it mean to stand my feet on the floor? What does it mean to find length? And,
Mm,
and to, yeah, so I think um, that relationship to the hostility that people have, whatever it is. I mean, we're talking about race, people feeling the need to, change the texture of their hair because it looks too African, or to change this color of their skin, or to change the shape of their eyes or their
mm,
nose.
mm,
What is it? Deep, deep, deep inside, you're saying, I'm not good enough.
mm.
I mean, it might be healthy enough to say, okay, look, let me just do what I got to do to make it work. But it's code switching. Mhm.
Can I ask a question? For the people who are watching or listening or are going to join in later and catch the recording, what would you use as a strategy right now if people were feeling uncomfortable?
In terms of their gender identity or sexual preference or
anything.
yeah, I think a wonderful. I mean, I've obviously chosen to have Feldenkrais be the root of my professional life and my personal life and the way I look at things. I think that when you get down on the floor or sit in a chair or stand on your head, whatever it is you do, when you do a Feldenkrais lesson, you are 100% inside yourself doing a voyage in which you time after time after time after time discover that you have resources within yourself that you didn't know you had.
Mm,
That just
mm,
happens. Oh, that is built into
mm.
the method. And
Yeah.
to time after time after time, do you habituate yourself to overcoming?
Yeah.
You habituate yourself to encountering that which could be a defeat, and you immediately turn it into a temporary setback from which I learn. Or it's I bounce off of that and I see other options. I know because it's happened so many times now that there are
Mm,
options that are available, and I might not see it now. There are
mm.
lessons that I've taken that I didn't get for a couple of years, and then I was like, "Oh, okay." And that's a wonderful resource inside me that enables me to do something as outrageous as saying, "Okay, why not throw a global festival? Why not
What
call
if
Margaret Kaye and see
what
if
if
she wants to
you're
do
lying
that?"
on the floor?
I'm sorry.
What if you're lying on the floor?
I'm
What if
sorry.
you're not what if you're not lying on the floor?
Well, you can do lessons
What would
any.
you do right now? Right now.
Okay, right now, I think if people are seated and you want to do something to bring yourself
Yeah.
into a greater sense of empowerment,
Yes.
something that I will be doing tomorrow, actually, I teach tomorrow morning, is looking at going through the feet and doing a lesson in seated.
Hmm.
There are many obviously there are many lessons that are like that that we find that there's at one time only so much, and then we find there's more and there's more and there's more, and the validator of our progression, of our progressing, is that we feel, ah, this just feels good. That's again built into the method, that it feels good that I can breathe that I couldn't breathe there before. Or it feels
So
good that
by
when I
being present with yourself, regardless of all of the external kind of input, being present in yourself. Is that what you mean?
yes, being present in yourself. Like right now, in terms of health, I got a thing earlier today saying that here in the United States, the person who has been, who looks like they're going to take over a cabinet position as far as health, is someone who believes that we shouldn't have polio vaccines, we shouldn't have children's vaccinations, and
Ah,
all kinds of crazy, crazy ideas. And
okay.
this is, that's happening outside of me. I'm sure there are forces that will fight that, and I think there are also people who just say that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? Who don't believe that you can have fluoride. Fluoride. You shouldn't have fluoride in terms of your teeth. Like what? Where does that come from? There are all kinds of crazy ideas, and that's happening in our politics. But just like other countries have gone through horrible, horrible situations and come out okay, there were people who took care of themselves so that they could be there fighting on the side of okay and sense.
Mm,
This cannot last. But the way it could last if nobody stands up.
yeah.
I look at people that say, I don't know how much you know about the history of the United States, but of course there was slavery here, something you guys didn't have in Australia. I mean, you had your own other issues, but
Yes, we did.
sorry, yeah, you had your own issues, but slavery. There was a time, of course, we had the Civil War, and then there was an attempt to have the African American population have complete and full rights in the southern part of the country. And the idea of America is that everyone has equal rights to do things. And part of the country just decided, no, we're not doing that anymore. That there are different. Some people have more rights than others, and then that changed. Right now, it looks like it's changing back. That there are people who are citizens who could be kicked out of the country because their parents come from a country where the majority of people have more melanin in their skin. I mean, I'm just putting it out there as it is. I mean, they don't say it that way, but they're not telling people that they have to go back to Austria. That's what's being said. And
Mm,
but the reason that that cannot last, or part of the reason that cannot last, is that there are people who stand up and be strong, and that's what we need to do.
yeah. Um, okay, there's so many layers. Whew.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you was, okay, so what can people do who are uncomfortable, who are misogynist, racist, homophobic, etc., etc.? What can they do so that they're more comfortable with the people around them?
Ah, I don't know. I don't. I was about to say I don't do any of those things, but I have.
Right.
There were times before I got to where I am, and who knows what vestiges of that are still there. I think I think it takes a commitment on the part of someone to want to transcend that. It's very easy to hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just easy. It's just like, you know what? Your name begins with an M, mine begins with an F, therefore I'm better than you. It's easy to do that. You don't have to really think. And
Mm.
um and so I think that it takes a commitment on their part to want to do that. And also a trust. Like for me, I remember I used to refer to women as chicks, and I didn't know that that was demeaning until someone lovingly pointed out that that calling a woman a chick or Tootsie or whatever. I didn't say Tootsie. And I now have I've now, because I was open to hearing that and realizing, wait a minute, that's ridiculous. You know, I was open to evolving to the place where, well, I don't do that. I might jokingly say to some of my female friends, I might say a silly thing like, I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase to call a woman a tomato. You're a gorgeous tomato. That's, I think, something out of Las Vegas in the 1950s, like like Frank
You
Sinatra going to the bar.
tomato.
Oh, yeah, tomato. Yes. Do you say that? Do you
Anyway,
say
I know what that means. No, I don't.
it's a sexually suggestive term for women that's about 50 years old, and I don't know. It's so old and ridiculous that it only elicits a laugh. And so to some of my older female students or friends, to tell them you're a gorgeous tomato. So it's the kind of thing. Again, if you're a man in Las Vegas and you're smoking a cigarette and you got a martini in the hand, and you say, "Let's go pick up a couple of tomatoes or
Uh,
tomatoes."
well,
Slightly different from the way I live my life.
go on to further insults or inappropriate language for some. Um, I have another question. um, so I guess my question was about people feeling comfortable who identify within the realm that we're discussing, also the external realm. But how do you think? I'm really going out of this world now. How do you think Feldenkrais can make the world a better place so that there's less hate and more love? Because I know that Feldenkrais said if everybody did this, we could have no war.
Yeah, I think one reason that people are aggressive and angry is that they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if you're uncomfortable, you're more apt to blame somebody else
Yeah.
and have somebody else be wrong. And if
Yeah.
you are living in a place of comfort, and again, you have habituated yourself
Mhm.
to the view of the world that you or I can improve, I can feel better, I can grow. There's an inherent optimism there that is completely antithetical to saying, I want to go and murder a bunch of people because they have the wrong religion or they wear the wrong clothes or whatever. And I think that that's there. That there's a deep appreciation for the magic of humanity, that we have the ability to continue to grow and find and take look at the world and not say, I'm just going to further the world as it is right now. That's my job. And say, no, I can improve the world. I can go out there and make the world a better place with everything that I do. I can do that with myself. I can do that with others. And I think
Yeah.
that's built into the method. And if that's my view, if that's what I'm doing, I don't have time for wars. When I in a meditation practice I've been in, if I'm in the place of hope as I meditate, there's nothing for fear to hold on to. There's
No.
nothing for anger to hold on to because I'm in the realm of hope. If I'm in the
Yeah.
realm of growing forward and accessing myself, I don't need to fight a war against you. That doesn't mean I don't need to defend myself if you're coming after me.
Yeah.
But
But it literally means that I call it the happy chemicals. You can stimulate the happy chemicals instead of the fight, flight, freeze chemicals.
absolutely.
Do this work. And that's the important thing. But also, there's the issue of connectedness with others. It's not just about me, it's about us.
Mhm.
That's my belief. We're going on a tangent here, but we're going to have to wrap up soon. Is there
Okay.
something that you'd like to say before I'm going to give a 2-minute ATM? I'm sorry that I'm going to just jump in and do that.
Oh, please, I look forward to that. But yeah, do I have anything else I'd like to say? No, I think people can reach out. I'm going to be teaching. I'm teaching tomorrow. People, if you want to have questions, feel free to do that. I'm teaching. You're teaching also. We're doing
Yes.
24 hours. I think there are opportunities for that, and I'm looking for. I think it'd be great to have an ATM with you. Yes, and Claudia says something which I love. Yeah, the method teaches us how to be gentle to ourselves. So important. Totally. Totally. It's yeah. Thank you. Thank you for adding that. Yeah. So you have an ATM for us? Okay, you know what? I'm going to take myself off of Spotlight and leave you on Spotlight. Also, you may
Oh,
have noticed I put on a jacket because I was being interviewed. I want to look like a grown-up. And so I'm going to remove the jacket. I'm going to remove my Spotlight and I'm going to get ready for your ATM.
okay. It's literally just one that I teach people when they're having issues about fear, about being uncomfortable, or feeling shame, or even feeling um, a little disoriented or dizzy, believe it or not. And I have used it myself in very stressful situations. And it's a sitting lesson. It's literally going to take us 1 to 2 minutes. So if you could sit with your feet on the floor, it might mean that you need to not lean back in the chair if you're sitting on a chair. And just get your soles of your feet clearly planted on the ground. And in this way, just notice your breath. And of course, when you notice your breath, you don't have to change it, but because you are noticing it, it may change. And look at something ahead of you very gently, kind of at the level of the horizon. So your eyes are focused, but not glaring and staring, just gently and softly. So you can see what's ahead of you. I can see the door, but also I can see what's around me in the peripheral zone. And notice when you breathe in and when you breathe out, and what the rhythm of that breath is like. And next time that you breathe in, keeping your eyes gently on that place on the horizon, press with your feet to the floor And notice that it pushes you up to be a little taller, but your eyes are still staying pretty much in the same place as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, you let it go. The action is initiated by the feet in the rhythm with the breath. You press to the floor as you breathe in. Let that breath be full, and then release it as you breathe out. It's grounding. It's using your spine to support you. It's breathing, and that is all. Please come back, Frederick. And while we're here, I'll just repeat the affirmation. I deserve to take up space and let my light shine.
Well, that is a wonderful affirmation. I thank you for that. Also, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about my stuff and what I'm about, and and I hope people will. I hope people had a good time with it. If people want, I don't know if you can hang out. If people have some questions that they'd like to put forth.
I have a question. What did you think about that tiny one move ATM?
I
When
thought it
it's
was. It reminded me of Ruthie Alon and
Mhm.
groundedness, and also as I went into it, I could, if I had hate in my heart, if I said, people whose name begins with an M, there's no way I could hold on to that. I was present with myself and finding inside myself. So it was beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Yes.
it's, yeah, really quick. Yeah, nice. Excellent. So do people have any questions they'd like to ask of me? I see. I noticed my breath opened up. Comments, questions, and anybody have any questions about, I don't know, anything?
Everyone's just in the zone.
I guess that's what's going on. Or maybe I just said everything that I know. I don't know
Well,
anything else.
hi, Frederick. Hi, Margaret.
Claudia, how are you?
I just want to take the opportunity. Sorry, I've been off screen all day, but I've been following along. I had to work and I was just eating dinner, but I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, the questions, the thoughtfulness, the care that you have for the community and bringing it to the world, particularly at a time like this. I'm glad that it's in place. I think that's what is so important, to have more and more of these things in place, because it's going to be more and more important.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
Yeah.
So just wanted to thank you both for doing this, and I love the festival. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You take care. Bye-bye.
All righty.
Lovely to meet you.
Does anybody, something I used to say at the senior centers, anybody feel like they want to say something and they're just at the point of thinking, should I? If that's the case, I think there's something empowering about putting your own idea out there, whatever it might be, particularly if that's transcending a personal barrier that you have. If you feel like, well, maybe, I don't really, maybe whatever, then how about if you say it? Um, and if you like. But if you don't want to, then that's cool too. All righty. Well, Margaret, I want to say thank you. I want to thank you so much. For those of you who don't know, when I talked to Margaret about the festival, she said, I'd love to do. I'd love to. And I said, well, I'm thinking of doing something global. She said, well, I'm in Australia. I'd love to do this. I said, okay, let's make it happen. And so I want to thank Margaret for that and being and
Letting me.
and both of us going outside of our comfort zones, because neither of us is a natural computer person, but we do our thing. But we're doing our thing out here, and this is great. And as a
And
reminder,
just a reminder that I'm hosting this side of the world on What's My Sunday is Your Saturday.
Yes, Saturday.
Yes. So in my time, it's from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 o'clock, and I'll be the one doing the last lesson at my 7 o'clock.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing in the US, Canada, and also South America and Mexico. I'll be doing North and South America starting at 11 a.m. on Saturday. And so I'll be doing that. But I'm also teaching tomorrow morning. I've got actually 2 lessons on empowerment. And then Larry Goldfarb is in the evening. And then we got a jazz concert at night. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Well, then on this, I guess I wish you all a wonderful evening. I thank you so much for taking the time out to play with us and hear what I guess what I had to say, and Margaret also. And thank you, Margaret. Thank you, everybody. And I guess we'll call that a night.
Thanks,
So long,
Frederick.
everybody. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye bye.
Bye.